You are now tuned into Shakil and Company on America's Islamic Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Shakil, and today's exciting interview is sponsored by JG Advisors, Element Dental, AT&T Astoria, The Mugs and Beans, Tech Bites, Gyrospot, Freedom Line Brokerage, and Glide Management. Today we have none other than Legislator Siela Bynoe, who represents the 2nd Legislative District, has an associate's degree in liberal arts from Nassau Community College, a bachelor's in psychology from Hofstra University, and a master's in public administration from CW Post, LIU. Legislator Bynoe, who started her political career as a twice elected official from the Westbury School District Board of Education, which during her tenure saved Westbury taxpayers $3.8 million. She's also a part of many committees like Rules, Public Safety, Planning, Development, and the Environment. Also, she's a ranking member for the Office of Minority Affairs, ranking for Economic and Community Development, and ranking for Public Works. The hamlets that fall under her legislative districts are Hempstead, Lakeview, Westbury, Newcastle, parts of Hicksville, Uniondale, Rockville Center. So if you live in any of these places, make sure you guys please pay attention. Siela, did I miss anything?
The only thing that I will correct for the record is Carrier Salages would be very upset with me, is that he's now the ranking member of the Office of Minority
I'm sorry.
Affairs. That's okay. It's still on the internet somewhere. We have to fix that.
That's where we got it from.
Yes.
So Siela, please take this time to introduce yourself to our viewers and say hello.
Thank you. So, Siela Bynoe, I am a 46-year resident of the village of Westbury. As our host here, Kevin Shakil, has stated, I am really a homegrown girl. I was brought up here in Westbury. I attended Westbury schools and then went on to obtain my education locally. And I also went on to serve locally at the Housing Authority in the town of North Hempstead as a commissioner as well as a school board member. I am currently the executive director for the town of Huntington Housing Authority, and I am also the chairwoman for Nassau County's Land Bank, aside from being a legislator.
Amazing. So let's just jump right into this long overdue conversation.
Looking forward to it.
Based on your many responsibilities, tell our viewers what you do as a legislator.
So as a legislator, we have 3 basic rules, right? We should be making sure that as fiduciaries that we're monitoring the tax revenue that we collect from our residents, and then make sure that it's spent wisely. In addition to that, we should make sure that our constituents, our residents, have direct access to government services. Mm-hmm. And that'll be your parks, your police, your DSS, health and human services, all the services the county provides. And in addition to that, our job is to legislate, to actually vote on rules, create rules that would increase the quality of life of our residents.
That's amazing. So what are the different types of hurdles you're dealing with representing such a diverse district?
So I have to tell you, this has been a labor of love. I didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to be, Nassau County's legislator, but I am thankful for the opportunity. And since joining the legislative body, there have been some really spirited debates that have come up with issues within the district. Very early on, there was an issue regarding a casino that they wanted to put at the Source Mall. And so I joined other elected officials from the area to say no casino. And that was a real hard-fought battle. We were successful in making sure that the casino did not come to our beloved Westbury. And I think it's a win-win situation, because what ends up happening now is that the Aqueduct racetrack gets additional machines, and then we share in the revenue with Aqueduct. One of the other things that we came across, we've had a couple of big fights, and another one was against a waste transfer station that they wanted to put within 500 feet of the doors of our Hempstead High School. So there was a company that decided they wanted to bring waste from throughout New York City and Long Island, Suffolk County, the region, and they were going to truck it and cart it through the village of Hempstead.
Why would they even do that?
Yeah,
that makes no sense.
It defies sense, right? And especially in a community where the large majority of our students walk to school. So we, again, came together, Minority Leader Kavan Abrahams, Senior Councilwoman Dorothy Gooseby, and myself, and we band together and we fought against that. And then out in the southern part of the far southern part of the district, in the Rockville Center, Lakeview area, we had an issue of brown water. It's high concentrations of iron deposits in the water, and families were experiencing a horrible quality of water. And again, we came together and we said, not here, we deserve better. And so we have worked with New York American Water to make investments in that community that now is yielding a better quality of water. It's a work in progress, but we are continuing to make sure that the mains get changed out, that the iron filtration systems are there, that they're flushing out the mains quite regularly to improve the quality of water.
I remember reading an article a couple years back about how Long Island water is like one of the worst waters we have.
So Long Island faces a considerable amount of issues. Number one, it's not, water is not a infinite source. We're drilling down into the aquifer, pulling water out, and as you pull out this water, because there is ground waste, you're pulling out water that has high levels of concentration of contaminants, and so we are actually faced with a quality of water issue and a quantity. So I'm actually working on a couple of initiatives that would hopefully help the quality of water and also conserve water.
That's amazing. And then besides your re-election that you're going through right now, right? What are the top issues that you're focused on today in your district?
So it's budget season in Nassau County. So we're spending a lot of time going through the budget. When I saw the budget books being carted up to our offices, I was excited and was like, yay, budget books. I was trying to get mine off before she could get upstairs. But that being said, looking at the budget is one of those things. And then we have, we face a whole bunch of different issues. Most recently, I put out a newsletter that talked about the development that's going to be happening at the hub and at Nassau Nassau Coliseum. And we need to be very smart about how we develop that land.
So you're talking about that, right? What is exactly the plan for the hub?
So the plan for the hub right now is that RXR will be the developer,
Okay.
and that RXR will have exclusive rights to determine what goes there, along with the county, meaning no other developer at this point. And so the idea currently is that there will be at least 500 units of housing,
Okay.
and that there'll be experiential retail space there, and that we would be welcoming yet another science, technology entity to the space. I believe Northwell is coming. So the objective is to create high-paying jobs, opportunities for employment for high-paying jobs, to create retail, and also some level of a tourist attraction. Because my concern is that we'll build something that kind of mirrors
Like Roosevelt
Field.
Field.
Like we don't want
Exactly.
that, right?
Yeah.
We saw what happened when Roosevelt Field was able to expand, when the Gallery Mall was able to expand. The Source Mall went under.
Exactly.
So we're being smart about how we're approaching this, and I think the legislature has a keen eye on how we're going to develop it. Because whatever we do there, we want it to attract more people to come to our area, and we don't want to detract from
Everything else.
all the other shopping and experiences that we have in the area. So I think we need to build something that will bring tourists from outside of the region into our community and have them spend some money.
I agree. So if you guys are not tuning in, you're listening to Shakil and Company on America's Islamic Radio. We have Legislator Siela Bynoe here from the 2nd Legislative District. We're having a great conversation. What are some of the legislations that you have proposed, that you have passed in the past, that people have to be thankful to you for today?
Well, so I think there have been a whole host of different initiatives that we've been able to successfully bring forward for the residents of Nassau County. And I'm going to start with the piece that happened this week. And it wasn't necessarily legislation. And this is actually to draw attention to not everything has to be legislated, okay? I was sitting in the legislature one day, and there was a presentation during the Top Cop, where
Okay.
we actually applaud our fine men and women of law enforcement for the heroic acts, and also our EMTs and the like. And so the EMTs came in and talked about this automatic CPR machine,
Okay.
that if they had it, that they would be able to hook it up, place it on a person who's experiencing some cardiac trauma, and at the same time, since the machine is doing the work, that they're able to then hook in an IV or do some other tasks that could be life-saving. And so hearing that on the floor, it was in passing, I said, I got to get out to, and this is something that I try to do, get out to every department. And so I went out to the Emergency Ambulance Bureau, and I met with some of their members, and they demonstrated for me that machine, and I said, we need to have these machines. So before even leaving the building, I called Police Commissioner Pat Ryder and said, we need one of these for every ambulance. He did one better, and he said, Siela, I don't know how I get it, but I said, listen, look at asset forfeiture, find out if you could use that money. And that's money that would be taken back from drug dealers or, you know, any other kind of crime that's committed. And he said, Siela, he called me back, he says, I can do it. I did a lot of research, we can do it. And not only will I get one for every ambulance that's on the road right now, we'll add 2 extra machines so that the fly cars, the supervisors now have them. And so just Monday, I stood with the county executive and with Police Commissioner Ryder, and he announced that there were 22 uses of that machine from the time that we employed them last month to now, and he believes that there's a 45% increase in survival.
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty good.
So just out of that little conversation you had, you implemented something such a life-saving tool.
Very, very happy for listening ears at the police commissioner's office.
Amazing. So I also see in your newsletter you have secured community revitalization project (CRP) grants for initiatives. What projects are coming about from this?
Sure. Yeah, great. Thanks for asking. So most recently, we were able to get a van for our senior citizens out of the village of Westbury. So we gave Westbury Village the $65,000 it needs for the van, and this van carries our seniors to events. It carries them to medical doctors. I witnessed one the other day. I was driving down Maple Avenue, and I saw the van, and when I looked over, he was unloading one of our senior citizens to a doctor's appointment. We've also been able to make sure that the village of Westbury received extra funding so that they could do LED lighting. It's going to save taxpayers money, but more importantly, it's going to illuminate darker areas, you know, areas that are dark, and it'll allow for safety. In the village of Hempstead, we were able to give the library system some funding to get a message board. One of the things that we want to do in the village of Hempstead is, because it's so big, is be able to communicate all the services and opportunities that are available in the village. And now this message board that sits, you know, on the main road in the heart of, you know, Hempstead is now communicating that information. And in Lakeview, we were able to provide $127,000 to the library there to do some work as it relates to building out and creating space for the residents to utilize a second floor that had been underutilized. And we also have additional money in for public safety for the village of Hempstead to buy license plate readers and tasers.
So about those license plate readers and tasers, right? I mean, there's a big commotion for license plate readers in general, where it's just a money grab to get tickets from people, like cars are driving, insurance, get anything. What do you think about that?
So good question. And so,
especially like in minority communities where people don't have that much to pay those kind of tickets, and they get jammed up for something so small.
And I agree that's not what I would intend the use of these license plate readers. The intention of the license plate readers are to ensure that if a crime is committed in an area, that police can determine what cars, who was in the area at the time. They're utilized in many cases in retrospect. That they shouldn't be used, from what I'm hearing. Good policing would be that it's used once a crime or something has been committed. Now, I know that there will be some monitoring of those license plate readers to see if there's a pop that shows that a car is uninsured, unregistered, that it's stolen. It's supposed to be used for high level type of violations or crimes, as opposed to used for trying to, like you say, be a money grab and just hit people up for tickets.
Yeah, so we can be sure that there'll be like an oversight committee for watching that to make sure.
So again, these CRPs, they're community reinvestment program money, and our opportunity as legislators at the legislature is to be able to grant that money to municipalities and be able to then give them the money. The programming will be solely in their hands at that point, but it's our understanding, based on how they write their grant application, how they should be using it. And given the fact that I I would say that I've worked.
Mm-hmm.
I work tirelessly to make sure that I have good relationships with leaders throughout the community, that if I were to learn that they were using it in a way that didn't coincide with the application, that I would call them on it.
Just wanted to make sure. So we talk about Westbury. We're from Westbury,
Yep.
and we know that Post Avenue and Westbury, Village of Westbury is going through a $10 million downtown revitalization. They got the grant. How can we ensure that minorities like me and you are included in these projects, and it's just not we're not getting waivers for for MWB and whatnot.
So, MWBE and service disabled veterans, that's programming that is, very near and dear to my heart. I actually, as late as this morning, had another meeting with some folks out of Ernst & Young regarding how we can develop real sophisticated programs here. And so, that being said, it's once money comes from the state and once money comes from the federal government, there is a requirement that we meet utilization rates. And so this is not something that would be a lofty type of initiative. This is something that is mandated. It is required by our funders. And so
But we know how sometimes
we have to meet it. We have to meet the benchmarks. And so what I'm hearing now is that they're going to be a little less forgiving for entities that are not hitting these benchmarks. And as it relates to that downtown developing that would be happening there, the county, I was able to secure in our county budget to make sure that we work on some of the areas of the village that weren't included in that scope for the grant. They only had $10 million, so they could only do but so much. So I was able to get $6.3 million to do a streetscape to mirror what has happened on Post Avenue. From Post Avenue to Brush Hollow Road on Union Avenue, and then from Union Avenue to Post Avenue on Maple Avenue. And so that money will also go to the village. We're going to give that money directly to the village, and they will be the ones to facilitate the capital improvement program, and then they'll have to also meet our utilization rates for including women and minorities and service disabled veterans.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for doing that, because I live in Westbury, so seeing my little town becoming up to date and looking beautiful it makes me proud. Nassau County, with fighting the opioid epidemic that I spoke with Legislator Josh Lafazon on here with, I see that you were selected to co-chair a Nassau County Policy Task Force. What are the plans for that?
So we just actually, it's so timely with you, because
I get my newsletters.
So just yesterday we presented the report. The committee presented the report to our county executive, and that report, I will tell you, is a roadmap for what I believe to be a very proactive approach to how we will deal with opioid addiction. And I'll go one step further. While I'm, in my heart of hearts, believe that if we enact what this report has stated that we should, not only will we deal with opioid addiction, we'll deal with other high-risk behaviors, other drugs, people being promiscuous, individuals that tend to have violent characteristics. We'll be able to deal with a lot of things that our young people are fighting with. Basically, we want to embrace a trauma-informed approach to how we deal with young people. And so it's not even going to be, did something happen to you? It's going to be, when did something happen to you, and how are you processing it? And so basically, we want to arm as many folks as we can that are on the front lines, who are really the first line of service providers, our teachers, our administrators in our schools, to be able to identify when somebody's in crisis, de-escalate in the immediate if we believe that something tragic could happen, but also do a referral so there could be a deeper dive into the issue and an unpacking of the issue, and then in its place push into the young person some positive attributes about themselves and have them start looking at themselves from a better lens. And I won't belabor the point, but I feel I need to hit this, is that data shows that a young person who experiences trauma at a young age has a higher potential to use drugs or engage in high risk behaviors. And so when I look at the legislative district that I represent in our county, not only are we looking at that from opioid addiction, we're looking at gang violence, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the young people are struggling because they have one or two or even more than the indicators that has been pushed up from this data that says those young people that have experienced separation from their family, a death in their family, that a member of their family is incarcerated, that that there is some life tragedy that they have to process, that we have to flood them with services. And without doing that, we're going to have an adolescent who is now looking to self-medicate or find a family environment that they didn't have at home or the like. So I think the work that this task force has done is tremendous. I'm happy to see it's not a whole report on reactive, type of methodologies, Narcan training. It's great. We need it because there are people who are already in that spectrum, but we're looking now to solve the ills of the young people so that we don't continue to have people move in that trajectory.
So I'm thinking this is more going to towards mental health. That we're having these mental health issues that are leading people to these drug issues and whatnot. And I also see that you passed the mental health first aid training law.
Yes.
What is that about?
So the mental health first aid training law requires that all Nassau County employees, and that would be inclusive of our public safety folks, and that includes correction officers, parole, probation, our EMT folks, our folks at DSS. We would also include human services, and all those folks who are delivering direct services to our residents, especially those that are most vulnerable, that they be trained in mental health first aid so that they can identify when there's an issue, so that they could do the proper referral. We see far too often that our police, our EMTs come in contact with individuals who are exhibiting signs, and sometimes they don't need to be carted off to jail. Sometimes they need to be carted off to someplace where their mental health could be evaluated and they can receive the services they need. So this initiative has been something that I've been working on probably from the day that I set foot into the legislature, and we have had gains each year because not only are we providing it to our employees, we have money set aside in our budget where we provide it to our civilians, our people that are either faith-based leaders, who are coaches of teams and the like, and so and parents, parents that want to sit in and be able to be certified and trained so that they could help their children or even their neighborhood children. So this initiative is actually getting yet another second life because it's also included in the opioid task force recommendations that we fund the schools to be able to bring it directly into the schools.
Great initiative. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
doing such amazing work.
Thank you.
If you guys are now tuning in, you're listening to Shakil and Company on America's Islamic Radio. We have a wonderful interview conversation with Legislator Siela Bynoe. And listen, a lot of hardworking people every day who are watching this want to know how they can get in touch with you, what kind of services your office provides. If you could just let our viewers know the services that your office provides so they can reach out to you because, you're an elected official.
So I'm happy that you asked the question. Our office will answer every call that comes through. Some of the calls aren't necessarily, some people don't understand the levels of government. Some of them are town-related issue, village, state, what have you. But once we answer the call, we basically own the issue. We will take in the request, and they range from, I'm having problems with housing. That we just had a call the other day. A parent wasn't able to get their child in school because they did not have vaccinations, and there was a good reason why the child did not have the vaccinations, medical reasons, and she needed to understand how to get the exemption, and so she didn't even know how to didn't know how to do that. And we were able to navigate the system and provide her not only with the information but then make the calls directly to the schools and to the Department of Health and to the school district to make sure that the child was able to enter the school again. So we answer calls from tragic, unfortunate fires. People are affected by fires. To
a horrible one.
Yes.
The Harvest Diner.
The Harvest Diner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a terrible one. I got the call early in the morning, and I made sure that I was there on scene to make sure that our local business owner had access to all of the government agencies that could assist him. And then, we had one down at Cathedral Place, not Cathedral, sorry, Gateway,
Yeah.
and on Prospect Avenue. We've had one at 100 Terrace. When we hear about fires in our district, we respond, we go out. My office is a very hands-on approach. We have actually accompanied people to the Department of Social Services when they were attempting to access services and were, meeting some level of an obstacle. We accompany them. We've been to the Department of Housing with our constituents. So we go to great lengths to make sure that every issue that comes through, that we see it through. And again, we work with our partners in government, and if we need to engage our councilwoman or our mayor or whoever, we do.
Amazing. And how can they reach out to your office?
So I think that was the first part of your question. So they could call us at 516-571-6202, and in addition, we accept emails, and the email address would be Bynoe, that's BYNOE, at NassauCountyNY.gov.
And what's the number one more time?
516-571-6202.
You guys have been tuned to Shakil and Company on America's Islamic Radio. Thank you, Legislator Siela, Bynoe, for coming
Thank
out
you,
here,
Kevin.
for having
Thank
this
you.
beautiful conversation. You're always invited anytime you want to come. Just go across the street.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of our sponsors. You guys can catch us next week. We'll have an exciting interview with CARE New York. Assalamu alaikum.